welcome to the Toe River Lodge. A lot of you over the years have regularly asked us, do you have a cookbook and are you going to have one anytime soon? And our response has always been, yeah, we're trying to work on one, but with the busy schedule that we have around here, it seems to be harder and harder for us to find time. So what we decided to do is to do this video blog to allow y'all to get a little bit better perspective on some of the dishes that we create and have an opportunity to create those at home. What we'd like to do with this blog over the course of the 2012 season is alternate it between cooking one week and something related to juggling the next week. A lot of you know me, and many of you may not, and are getting to know me for the first time here, but for the past 15 years I've practiced juggling and have done that semi-professionally in various venues, but I chose to pursue my career here, and so my outlet for juggling is sharing it with some of our guests and a lot of our private events and parties. So I would like to share some of that with y'all as the season progresses. Here's a contact juggling move that can be incorporated into the kitchen. I've got a stainless steel bowl here, and by simply giving it a little spin and catching it on the arm, you can roll it around and do a chest roll. And you can try and keep that motion going in multiple patterns until it just absolutely loses control and breaks something, which is oftentimes what happens in the kitchen here. So good luck with that. Today we're going to be cooking a dish. It's a vegetable risotto dish that we feature oftentimes on our evening dinner meals. A little background to this. One of the featured ingredients is Boursin cheese. This cheese was originally created by Francois Boursin, and he didn't have a classification of the cheese when he went to export it for customs purposes, and so he decided to classify it as Gournay cheese, which is the small town in France where he grew up. So this will be one of the stars of our dish. What we've got is some ingredients. I've got a mixed blend of vegetables. I've got some yellow squash, some zucchini, red and green bell peppers, mushrooms, some red onion. I've also got some artichoke hearts, capers, some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, roasted red peppers, some green onions for garnish, 2 cups of arborio rice, which is the grain that we're going to be using to create the risotto, and some vegetable stock as well. We're going to start off with high heat, and we're going to add butter. We're going to give that a moment to melt. All of that grain, and that was 2 cups of the arborio rice. We're going to give that a moment just to kind of let that butter get incorporated, and then we're going to slowly start by adding our vegetable stock. Now you can create this a couple of different ways. You know, we have so many leftover veggies and tidbits and ends and pieces from the restaurant that we typically just get those going into a large pot and just simmer it and add some salt and pepper and whatever other seasonings or herbs you would like to flavor that with, and then just sort of reduce it for a little while, creating a nice rich vegetable broth. You can also get bases that they sell in the store that you can create broth with, or even bouillon. It will give you a similar result. I like to use this just because it's a little bit richer and has a little bit fuller flavor. Looks like we're almost there on the arborio. You know, I started with 8 cups here. You're probably going to only need about 6 cups to create this dish, but I like to have a little bit extra just in case. One thing that we don't want is a dry risotto. It should be very moist and move on the plate, you know, versus being too stiff. This process takes a little while. What we're going to do is just continue to simmer that, constantly stirring and adding liquid until the grain is al dente. We want it to have just the smallest amount of crunch to it in the center before we start incorporating the other ingredients. When it's done, it should be firm but not crunchy. Now that this is going and simmering very well, what I want to do is turn our heat down to about medium. We want to keep a nice simmer going, but we don't want to scorch anything. And there's no sense in evaporating excess amounts of our vegetable stock that we're incorporating as well. So just a nice low simmer on that, and it will continue to cook. One thing great about this dish is it really is fairly quick. You know, you've got a total prep time and the ingredients of about 30 minutes in getting everything together, and then probably another 30 minutes or so in the dish. So over the course of an hour, you can have a really fantastic dinner. Keep in mind that food should be something social and fun. So invite a few friends over, have somebody work on the veggies while another person is working on the stock, and by the time you've got everything ready, you'll find that you've had a chance to enjoy a glass of wine, and then you can have a chance to sit down and enjoy another one with your dinner. So for a recap of the ingredients that are going to go into this dish, you've got your blend of vegetables, you've got 8 cups of vegetable stock, about a tablespoon of capers, about 4 artichoke hearts quartered up, some freshly grated Parmesan cheese, about 2 tablespoons of roasted red peppers, some sliced green onion or chive for garnish, a little bit of salt and pepper, the boursin cheese, the arborio rice, and some butter. And of course the white wine, featuring our label of white wine, which is a Sauvignon Blanc. So any semi-dry white wine will do, as long as it's palatable for you to drink. It's good to cook with as well. I always say, if you wouldn't drink it, then there's no sense cooking with it. At this point, we've been cooking and slowly incorporating that vegetable stock into the arborio for about 12 or 13 minutes. So I like to get just a little piece on the end of the spatula. Of course, make sure it's cooled off. And give it a taste. It's perfect. There's just a very, very slight crunch right in the center. So this is the exciting part. We're actually ready to move on to the next part of the dish. So I'm going to turn the arborio off, and I'm going to crank up the other frying pan. I'm going to give that about a minute to get really nice and hot. I tend to lean towards the French train of thought that butter is going to make anything better. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of butter to this pan. You'll see it's starting to sizzle a little bit, so now we've got a little bit of heat going on there. I'm going to wait until that butter is completely melted. At this point, we're going to throw in all of our veggies. I'm preparing this dish for 2. You might be able to serve 3 out of what we're preparing here, but it looks like we've got about 3.5 cups total of the vegetables to go in there. Like I said, I've got about 4 artichokes here quartered up, so I'm going to go ahead and add those as well. Got about a tablespoon of capers. Let's go ahead and just put those in. We've got about 2 tablespoons of roasted red peppers, diced up. We'll add those. And of course, we need to add just a little bit of salt and pepper. Keep in mind that you can always add more, and depending on the level of sodium that's already in your vegetable stock, you do want to be cautious, because not only is there salt there and the salt that I just added to the dish, but our cheese is going to have some of that salt as well. So a light hand is better when you're adding the salt. We're going to let this just continue to saute on high. We want to get that really nice and hot. So Our goal is not to overcook the vegetables, but to just get them started, because they are going to finish off in the next step of the dish. You can see a little bit of browning starting to occur on the onions and the mushrooms, which is good. Looks like most of that butter has really started to absorb into the veggies. The mushrooms are going to act as a little bit of a sponge and soak up some of those juices as well. And so now that we've got the pan really nice and hot, we're going to deglaze with a little bit of white wine. Like I said, I'm using the Sauvignon Blanc here. Then we're going to add about a little less than a quarter cup, somewhere in there. Probably right at a quarter cup. Alright, now we're going to turn the pan back on for our risotto over here, our arborio rice and stock. We're going to incorporate all of these veggies. We're going to add a little bit more stock to that. And then we're going to add this wheel of the Boursin cheese. Now all we're going to do is start to incorporate that cheese, and as we need to, you want to remember that you don't want this blend to become too dry. It should be very moist. I don't know if you can see what we're working here with very well. I'll give you a better shot of it here at the end. Cheese is really starting to melt in there. Add a little bit more liquid here. You know, it looks like on these quantities we're really going to have enough to easily feed 4 people. Just going to finish off the rest of that liquid there. Now that all the cheese is melted and everything's really simmering in nicely, I'm just going to turn the heat off. Let that rest for about 30 seconds or so. Continuing to stir. You can serve this up with a little bit of garlic bread, or I typically don't even do any bread with the dish. It's not necessary for me, but it is definitely a nice addition. You can see now that this dish is complete. I'll give you a view of it here in just a moment. Boy, this smells delicious. To finish off, we're just going to garnish with some of this freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Some green onion. And it's done. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you'll be able to experiment with this dish and create it at home. There are so many things that you can do as far as variations go. You know, if you wanted to add some protein to this, you could easily grill up a chicken breast, slice that, put it on top. Incorporate shrimp or a piece of grilled salmon onto the top of this as well. So it's a very versatile dish that can be, played with a lot. So hope you enjoy it.